Hi everyone. Our name is actually Western Desert Ngunnawal Palyanjaku Jutku Aboriginal Corporation, which is why people usually call us the Purple House. And I tell our nurses they're not allowed to resign until they can say it and spell it, so they all stay forever. If you know anything about Aboriginal artwork, you'll know that our logo is just people coming in from different communities to sit down to meet about trying to make life better, and that the little boomerang shapes are the shape that your bum makes when you've been sitting in the sand and then you stand up. So I think I'm one of those little white bums. I should probably grow a bit over the years. So in traditional Aboriginal society, you don't usually say the name or show the picture of people who've passed away. So the warning at the bottom is just for Aboriginal people in the audience that there are some pictures of people who've passed away in our story, but it's been, family have decided they really want us to show their pictures because they're really proud of what we've done. So our story starts out in Kintore, which is 7 hours drive west of Alice Springs. And Kintore you might know for a number of reasons. Fantastic Aboriginal painters there. The real heart of the Western Desert art movement. The history of Kintore was that people had lived out on this country. People talk about the naked times. In small family groups, travelling from one sacred waterhole to the next. And whitefellas had turned up and decided to try and force people into missions and settlements. So it wasn't until 1981 that people actually got permission to return to their country, and then were really happy to be back on their country painting. Their paintings were selling all around the world, and then family members started to get sick with kidney disease, and they were told that they couldn't stay in Kintore. They'd have to come all the way to Alice Springs to be on dialysis 3 times a week for the rest of their lives. And you can probably imagine this was causing people great hardship. They were away from their country and their songlines and their family and bush tucker and everything that made life important and gave life meaning. So they said, well, why can't we have a dialysis machine in Kintore and then we can look after people ourselves? This was the problem, that people were a prisoner to their dialysis machine. It was drawing them away from everything important to them. So they couldn't get any help from the government, and so they got together and they painted some pictures. And this was the Kintore women, and this was their finished painting. We're up to 1999, 2000 now. It sold at auction for $170,000. And, Kintore men and Kirikura men, and this painting sold to Kerry Stokes, who owns Channel 7, for $340,000. I did think it might be in his 3rd bathroom or something, but I hear it's actually in his lounge room in Sydney. So what they ended up with was an auction at the Art Gallery of New South Wales. They had the help from Sotheby's Auction House and Hetty Perkins, Charlie Perkins' daughter, who was the curator of Aboriginal art. And in one night they raised $1.1 million to try and get their family members home on dialysis. It was a pretty good effort. Michael Wooldridge was the health minister at the time, and he got in the press and he said, well, fine effort, Kintore, but you'll never make it work. The water's no good, the power's no good, you'll never get dialysis nurses to work out bush. You might as well spend your money on something else. So, in a way, this helped because it made people even more determined to show him that they could do something. So they formed the Kidney Committee, who, and many of those people are still my bosses, who were family for dialysis patients, and they started to research dialysis to try and work out what they could do in the middle of the desert. Dialysis, for a start, takes 600 litres of water for one dialysis treatment. So I came on board late in 2002, so it's a bloody long time ago now. And it took us until 2004 before we did our first dialysis out bush. But what it meant was that for people like Naparula, she got to spend the last 5 years of her life out on country, painting for her art centre. And when she couldn't be dialysed anymore, everyone rallied around to look after her and give her a good last week, and she died with a belly full of lizard, which apparently is a good Interby way to go. And this is her painting in Paris. So if you ever go to the Indigenous Art Museum in Paris, that's her painting on the ceiling. I hasten to say it's her design. She didn't have to go over to Paris and lie on the back. She actually said to me, "I don't have to go over there, do I? My head might explode on that plane." And this is her son. And Morris, actually, since this photo was taken, he's lost more of he's a bilateral amputee. And if any of you saw the series Keeping Australia Alive on the ABC last year, they followed Morris through a day of dialysis out in Kintore at our Purple House out there. He is unstoppable. He walks on plastic legs. He's always got a scooter on the go and a wild expression on his face. This is his painting on the back of our purple truck. And I love the fact that he has no legs, he's got end-stage renal failure, and he's wearing a t-shirt that says, "Can't lose." He's a bush mechanic. These scooters drive me crazy. If anyone knows someone who can design an all-terrain, indestructible scooter, I'd really love to talk to them, because Morris gets through a couple of these a year, and you probably know they're not cheap. He rang me one day and he said, "Naprajari," that's me, "I need more t-shirts." And I said, "Morris, you've got lots of t-shirts." He said, No, I had a flat tyre on my scooter. It takes 4 t-shirts to fix a scooter tyre. And I was like, "Morris, what are you doing?" He said, "Don't worry, Naprajari, it takes 4 blankets to fix a troopy tyre." And I got this email from our nurses one day, and they sent a picture. His electrics had broken in the scooter, and so to complete the circuit, he'd found a mouse, and there was this poor little mouse that was wired into the electricity. So that's Morris. This is Hillary, and Hillary spends all his time in Kintore. We only see him once a year or once every 18 months. For checkups and to buy some new undies and then go home again. And I love the fact to go and sit on his veranda with him out in Kintore, and he talks about his days as a stockman and what he's painting at the art centre and the gossip of Kintore, and dialysis doesn't come into the conversation. For remote Australia, where Aboriginal culture is all oral and it depends on people with cultural knowledge being there to pass it on to the next generation, it's absolutely vital that people like Hillary are there to teach his kids and his grandkids those stories of country, because otherwise they'll be lost. And I think we'll all be lessened in Australia if that cultural knowledge is lost. Oh, I'm doing well with this clicker, aren't I? Okay, so we started with one dialysis machine in Alice Springs and one machine in Kintore, and then the word spread, the Bush Telegraph spread, and other communities rang us asking us for help. So sometimes they'd have mining royalty money, or they'd have an old building, or they'd have something to chuck in. But we realised we weren't going to have dialysis in every community. And sometimes we've got a 2-chair dialysis unit these days in a community where there's about 70 people and about 150 dogs. But we thought, well, let's have a go at designing a truck that can go anywhere. And we managed to get money. We had a look around trying to find anyone crazy enough to chuck us some money to do it. I now know more about truck engineering than I ever learnt at nursing school, I'll tell you. And we have rattled off just about every bit of this truck and glued it back on again. But Medicines Australia, which is the peak body for pharmaceutical companies, they've got a swear jar. And if drug companies do dodgy things with advertising or give too many free pens out or whatever, they have to put money in a swear jar. So this is $300,000 out of their swear jar. And I've always said there should be more bloody swearing. The paintings on the outside are from a show that was in New York in 2009. So when this comes to town, we're still going to communities where people have never got home on dialysis before. It's like the Mr. Whippy van's coming. The kids run at it. This is Patrick Jumarai, who's one of Australia's most famous painters. He's the star of the Canning Stockroot exhibition that's in Japan now at the moment, I think, doing dialysis in the back of the truck in Kirikura, officially the Australia's remotest community, with his favourite grandson in his lap. And that's his side of the truck. We get some money. If you go to Uluru, tourists pay a bit of money and the community gets to decide where that money goes to. So a bit of that money comes to us to keep the purple truck on the road and get it down to that southern part of the Northern Territory and down into South Australia. Having a dialysis in community is a great opportunity to talk to kids about and have community conversations about how to keep your kidneys healthy. Central Australia, which includes the APY lands, so South Australia as well, have the highest rates of kidney disease in Australia and some of the highest rates in the world. And the reason for that is complicated. And the last conference I didn't say why, and then I spent the whole weekend with individual people coming and asking me why there was so much kidney disease. The white fella version of why there's so much is if you imagine people living as hunter-gatherers in the desert, you might kill a kangaroo once a week. You might not eat for a few days at a time. So over the generations, people's bodies have got really good at storing. It was survival. You had to store everything you could because you never knew when you were going to get something to eat again. To go overnight from that to sitting next to a shop full of Coca-Cola and meat pies, people still store. So high blood pressure and diabetes, but also it's a disease of poverty. So it's about poverty, dispossession and powerlessness. And you will all know that over the years, Canberra government has had a multitude of policies about how they're going to solve the Aboriginal problem, and that often those decisions are being made in Canberra with no regard for what communities want. So, in a way, the Purple House is a great big health promotion project in itself. Because beyond getting people back to country and making sure that there's some hope for the future and that grandparents get to spend time with their grandkids, then it also, people had a problem, they worked really hard to solve that problem and they got to see it be a huge success and then help other communities. And if you've got some agency over your life, then you've got some hope for the future. So the solutions are complicated. It's about child health, isn't everything. It's about environmental health and housing and education and helping people to feel like they're part of this society and that they're valued. So, Rotary. We had a dialysis machine out the back at the primary healthcare clinic, just one machine. And next door to the clinic was this building that had been an old people's home for a very short period of time. The old people had moved out and there was a camel living in the kitchen. And the community really wanted to give us this building, but I just walked through and I dream about what it would look like, but we just didn't. You know, that $1 million didn't last forever. So I just didn't know how we were ever going to do anything about it. But Woden Rotary in Canberra heard about us and came for a visit, and they sent 10 work crews over 2 years and helped us to create what's become the hub of the community. with a dialysis room with room for 4 machines, a community kitchen, a meeting area, and a 3-bedroom nurse's house. So this absolutely wrecked building and no budget, we now have to insure for $1.5 million. And you might have heard there were big floods in Kintore over Christmas and the roads were closed for nearly 8 weeks. The Purple House was just about the only building in the community that didn't flood, and the nurses got really good at making everyone in the community breakfast. So we're also trying to grow up our Indigenous workforce, and this young woman is a dialysis nurse who actually grew up in Kintore, went away and studied, became a dialysis nurse and came back to work for us for a number of years. And Janie Nakamura is the smallest dialysis patient in Central Australia. She's about this big. And I drive a Morris Minor. Obvious choice for Alice Springs, but Janie's great because she really fits. If she's in a good mood, she's got the nose hole through her nose and she'll put a cotton bud through there and do a dance for you. So after Kintore, they helped us out at Kirikura. Look at the work health and safety on this. So that is it's a good thing his back's turned so we can't identify him. But what they came and did was they helped us to convert an old clinic in Kirikura, 700 k's west of Alice, into a funky purple nurse's house right in the middle of town. And I don't know why I'm having such trouble. This is our latest project, dialysis unit in Wannon in WA, and the Rotary Club again came and helped us convert the old clinic into a nurse's house. A building, a simple 2-bedroom nurse's house on a community, if you have to pay builders, will cost you in excess of $500,000, and it's nothing flash. So to get Rotary to help, even when we're paying the costs, then we can get a reasonable nurse's house for $30,000 or $40,000. So that's a big difference. We did work out, this is the young crew from Wannon, we did work out that the average age of Rotarians on the Kintore project was 73, and they did really well. Some of them forgot to bring their pills with them and we had to So from the idea of having a dialysis machine in Kintore, afternoon snoozes are over. This is what we look like today, and we're from Yirrkala in Arnhem Land, where we helped set up a unit for Mandawar Yunupingu, who was the lead singer of Yothu Yindi, down to Warburton in WA. I've got a part-time nurse in Perth these days who I got to visit courtesy of a Rotary conference a month or so ago. So a huge geographical area. And you'll notice one spot in South Australia, and I need to talk to you about that in a minute because we need help. So this is our dialysis unit in Yuendumu. It was funded from mining royalties, so that was money that people could have spent on anything. They could have pissed it up the wall, they could have bought Toyotas for themselves. They gave us the money to build this. And this is Lajamanu, similar deal. At the Purple House in Alice, now if you're a dialysis patient, you had to go to dialysis 3 times a week and you were actually running the unit, what would it look like? And so we have a dialysis unit in Alice Springs which has a karaoke machine, a pizza oven, it's got chickens that have got the flashiest looking chook house, they've got pictures to look at. There's been an addition of a Buddha and a disco ball of late. This chicken here, her name is Elsa Nova Napanunka. Elsa from Frozen, Nova after Nova Peris, who was a politician and an Olympiad. And Nova came to visit her chicken one day. She really wanted that picture for Facebook of her and her chicken, but Nova is not a chicken person. So I handed Elsa Nova over to Nova, and Elsa Nova could sense the anxiety and gave a little squawk and a flap. The result was that Nova squeezed and all this wet green and Nova just stood there screaming her head off. That was not the photo that made it to Facebook, but she's never been back. One of the things that people really miss from living out bush is their bush medicines. So they started going on a picnic, picking some bush medicine, making a batch, and then going and delivering it to each other around Alice Springs to hostels and hospitals. And then we realised that if we didn't make a bit more of this, that this cultural knowledge about these plants that really work was going to be lost. And so it's become a social enterprise. We've had 10 Indigenous trainees, young women, come through and study business. And if you'd like to try some, hint, hint, I'm over in the lunch morning tea place. Love to talk to you and flog you a tin of bush medicine to try for $10. We still raise money ourselves. This was an exhibition in Alice of dialysis patients' paintings that raised money to pay for a nurse in Kirikura. And this is Patrick, who was looking very grumpy at the time because the Northern Territory government wasn't going to let him over the border from Western Australia into the Northern Territory for dialysis. His nearest machine, which he'd helped to fund, was 150 k's away, and they were going to fly him from Kirikura to Alice, Alice to Perth, Perth to Kalgoorlie to see a kidney doctor, and then fly him all the way back again. And he was just like, you know, you might as well send me to Mars. There's no road between me. Kirikura and Perth, I'll be lost. Anyway, we had a big battle, and Warren Snowden, the Minister for Indigenous Health at the time, couldn't see me without swearing at me for quite a while. So we've now made him into a scarecrow in the garden, which he loves. And actually, Tanya Plebisek's been for a couple of visits and she loved it too. And that's Patrick going home after a big battle to get home on dialysis in Kirikura. So I think I've lost a picture, but can you bring me back? Sorry, I'm doing terribly. I'm sure you can get a premature or something. So this is Monica. She is offering you a lizard if you ever come to Alice Springs. I know quite a few of you might be venturing up to Darwin to the Institute meeting in September. If you've got time, come and visit, have a cup of tea at the Purple House. I do have to tell you, and I'm running out of time, but it hasn't started squawking at me yet. One of the things that we do at the Purple House is that we have visits from old American tourists. It's actually overseas adventure travel, but they are all old American tourists. Are there any Americans in the audience today that I'm going to offend? You know, we always need one. So the old American tourists come in a bus of 16 people to the Purple House in the afternoons. And they come and hear the story of the Purple House, and they meet some Aboriginal people who are part of our story, and sometimes when they're there we're cooking kangaroo tails. Now if you haven't been to Central Australia, you wouldn't know that you can go into a supermarket and there's a freezer, and in the freezer there's frozen kangaroo tails, and they're like big sticks. When I was a remote area nurse, I did see a couple of people who got bonked over the head with a kangaroo tail in the middle of the night, and they've still got the hair on. So it's a favourite party food. Light a fire, defrost the tails, light a fire, you burn the hair off, which smells disgusting, and then scrape it off and put it in the coals. Anyway, the old American tourists come, and the first time this woman said to me, "How long do they take to grow back?" And the first time this happened to me, I said, "I'm really sorry, they don't grow back." And she said, "Well, don't they all fall over?" To which I naively replied, No, people eat the whole kangaroo. This is just like the party food. And we had people kind of going and screams of horror. So now, if I get that question, I just say 2 to 3 weeks. And I did realise, I was doing the books the other day, I realised that we've had over 1,000 old American tourists through the Purple House in the last 12 months, and I reckon now all of them think that kangaroo tails grow back like this. The other really lovely thing that happened the other day, because you know, people have such a fabulous sense of humour and also worry about their family and their country, but beyond that, they watch the news. So when the tsunami hit a few years ago, Kintor, which is thousands of kilometres from the sea, had a blue light disco and raised a couple of $1,000 for those poor people who'd been washed away. Anyway, the tourists are coming through, and Sam Nelson from Yundamu was sitting there, and he just says quietly to me, "Are they Americans?" And this woman hears, and she says, "Yes, we're from the United States of America." And he said, "Oh, I've been worrying for you, mob." And she went, "Why would you be worrying about us?" And he said, "That man. That man with the orange hair. That's Trump." He said, "He's going to build a wall to keep the Mexicans out. And you, mob, you're going to get lonely." The other day I was driving down the street, and this old lady who was sitting next to me, my Friday job with her is she'll come in and she'll say, "Come on, I'm not Santa Claus. You've got to get rid of this one." I do a lot of chin shaving and toenail cutting, and I also get to squeeze boils. So I haven't lost all my remote area nursing stuff. But she said, "If you've got time, I'd like to go to that silver tsunami." And I'm like, I've lived in Alice Springs a long time. I don't know what silver... It's like silver tsunami. It sounds like a sushi shop. She said, No, you know, I'll show you that silver tsunami where they sell second-hand clothes. Salvation Army. Now, the Commonwealth Government has given us the money to build our first South Australian dialysis unit in Ernabella, or Pukacha, which is in the APY lands. Old fellas have been coming to us, often with a billy and a green chicken, wanting to boil their billy while they're in town, asking for help. And the Commonwealth has given us the money to build from scratch. It took me about 18 months to persuade the current South Australian Government to let us spend $1.5 million and build in Pukacha. And they've said yes on the condition that we raise the first year's operational funding ourselves, which means they'll be saving money because it's all South Australians that we'll be doing dialysis for. But anyway, we've got a goal of $250,000. We've raised $130,000 in the last 6 to 9 months, and we're planning at the big Aboriginal Art Festival in Adelaide in October, Tanandi, a fabulous auction of paintings from the APY lands, and also a display with some movies about the Purple House at the SA Museum. It's looking really exciting, and if there's people who are able to help in any way, just be our friends, we'd really love your help. I'm going to be around for the whole conference, and I'll be over in the break place. The other thing you can do, if you're a Facebooker, the Purple Truck Facebook page, we've got about 3,500 likes, which my kids tell me is pathetic. So if you want to get on and like the Purple Truck Facebook page, you'll get me out of the poo with my kids. So thanks heaps for your time. Thank you.